Hi, it's Pete Cohen, and welcome to episode 145 of the Mi365 podcast series. Today's podcast is going to blow you away, especially if you're the sort of person that is looking for more success, greater productivity. Today's podcast is called Routines and Rituals for Success. I really encourage you to take some notes as I share with you some of the real secrets around success. It's as simple as that. So get ready for an inspiring podcast with the episode 145 of the Mi365 podcast series. Welcome to episode 145. It's my absolute pleasure to be here for you as your coach. Many of you see me as your coach, and maybe you're listening to this podcast for the first time. I tell you what, even if you are listening to this for the first time, imagine I was your coach. I actually believe that everyone needs coaching because everyone needs someone to help us make progress in our life. And the role of a coach is literally to take you from where you are to where you want to be. And in many cases, a lot of people don't know where they want to go in their life. And that's why they end up going nowhere, because we have kind of shut down a part of our brain that sets goals and dreams and ambitions. Because I think deep down inside, many of us believe, well, what's the point? I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. And in fact, episode 144, we were looking at confidence. We were looking at what does it really take to develop a true inner confidence that you can achieve what you want to achieve and that you're a good person the way that you are. There's nothing wrong with you apart from the fact that you're a human being, and there's something wrong with all of us because we're not perfect. We looked at what confidence really is, and it's just a feeling. And that's what coaching can do. It can really help you develop your own true inner confidence. And we also mentioned in the last podcast that confidence is built in many cases by us doing what we say we are going to do. And if I was going to ask you how many times in your life have you let yourself down, what I mean by that is how many times in your life have you said you were going to do something and you didn't do it. That registers. There's a part of your brain that remembers everything pretty much, even though there's a part of your brain that maybe doesn't remember. We record everything that goes on. And if you've constantly or many times let yourself down, or you've been let down by other people, or you feel that you've been let down, we lack confidence in people, we lack confidence in ourselves, so we have to build it. And I ask all of you to think of yourselves like builders, like architects, and ask yourself, what in my life do I actually want to build? What in my life do I actually want to create? Because that is what you have been given. You have been given the same equipment that I have been given, and the same as everyone else, the ability to come up with ideas and manifest those ideas. So over the last 25 years or so, I've had the real pleasure to work with some incredible people, world-class athletes, Olympic champions, some very successful teams, and lots of organizations with executives, people who have really done some incredible things. They've kind of led from the front and broken down the walls of what other people maybe thought was possible. But it's not just people that you might have heard about that I've worked with, but I've also worked with a lot of kind of what I would call unsung heroes. People that have come from deprived backgrounds, people who, if you were going to put odds on them achieving what they've achieved, you'd say, well, that's not going to happen because people from that type of experience, that type of upbringing, they don't amount to very much. But one of the things we talk about a lot with Mi365 is everyone has the power to change and everyone has the ability to write a future. But it all boils down to a couple of very simple things in many cases. Of course, first off, it is having a compelling goal, something that you're working towards. Napoleon Hill, who wrote the great book Think and Grow Rich, and he interviewed 500 people. I haven't interviewed 500. I've worked with more than 500 people. And you see that there are some real simple things that all of these people do. And it's not complicated. In fact, it's common sense. But in most cases, common sense is just not common practice. And it really does revolve around the routines and the rituals that people put in place to manifest things. Routines and rituals. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not a big fan of routines and rituals that someone else is giving me. That's one of the reasons I didn't have a particularly good time in school. I didn't like the idea of having to sit down and study something that I really didn't want to learn about, and to then learn it and then regurgitate it in an exam. I rebelled against routines and rituals. I wanted to do things in my own way. I used to say this a lot. I'll do what I want, when I want, how I want to do it, and no one can tell me what to do. I said it to both of my parents, and I probably said it enough that, you know what, I did kind of end up doing my own thing, and I haven't really worked for anyone since probably about 1986 when I worked in Waitrose. I didn't like anyone telling me what to do. I wanted to come up with my own rules of the game. And this is something we've been working on with our coaching community, our elite community of people all over the world who we coach every single day, is we've been working on helping them define the game of life. Just imagine life was a game. It kind of is a game, really, if you think about it. And every day you kind of roll the dice. You might not literally be rolling dice, but you're rolling the dice in terms of the decisions that you're making and where those decisions are actually taking you. Now, when we really look at our life and we step back, we might realize that the game that we're playing, the rules that we play, how many of those rules did you actually come up with? Or how many of them were just what you were told and what you did, rather than going, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, what do I want out of my life? What are the goals and the dreams and the ambitions that I have? And are the ways that I think, the rules that I've set myself, the way that I deal with life, is that leading me in the direction that I want to go? So we have a lot of fun with our community of people, making them think of life as a game and then deciding how they want to play it. And just imagine putting a big learner sticker on yourself, because this is a game that you're always learning. It's not like Monopoly where you have to play by the rules. With your rules, you can always change them, because when life changes, often we have to change. But it's just a really great way of looking at life, and this is one of our goals, is to help thousands, millions of people all over the world, help them to define the way they want to play the game of life. Because within all of us, there is an innate drive for us to express ourselves. Something we've mentioned before on our podcast is something called syntropy. And this is something I didn't know anything about. I don't even know how I came across it. Please don't ask me to spell the word, because I am pretty severely dyslexic. I think it's Syntrophy. Who knows? Just Google it. 1937 Nobel Prize winner. I wrote his name down here somewhere, but on my notes, Zent Gogori. He was Hungarian. I probably spelt that absolutely incorrectly as well. And I wrote down one of the things that he said. He recognized, and he got the Nobel Prize 1937, he said, as a force, syntropy is a force which causes living things to reach heights and heights that it hasn't experienced before. So what he was saying is that there is an innate drive within all living cells for them to express themselves. So if you look at the acorn that falls from the tree, it lives to express itself fully. It might not. And he was saying every living cell lives to express itself fully, but we might not, because we are living cells. But that's like when you get sick or you cut yourself, your body wants to heal itself. But that's just physically. There's also mentally as well. And I personally believe this, that you were put on this earth to get better. Now, of course, that kind of contradicts itself, because, of course, one day we die, but most of us could live a lot longer than we actually live. Genetically, we could live to 110, 120 years old. But the fact is, most of us don't do that because we don't live our lives in accordance where we're getting better. Many of the decisions that we make in our life do the opposite of syntropy, where we're destroying ourselves by stress, worry, anxiety, the foods we eat, the habits that we have. So this is kind of going off track just a little bit, but what I'm trying to help you understand is that if you don't have routines and rituals to move you in the direction that you want to go, what do you think is going to happen? You will become a victim of temptation. you will become a victim of impulsivity. And I believe that there has never been a more important time for human beings to have rituals and routines in their life. Absolutely never ever a more important time than now. Why? Because there is more impulsivity, there's more distraction to you right now, even watching this. I mean, how many of you have already started looking at something else, or there's something else going on in your mind, or maybe you've stopped watching it and thought, I'll come back to this later on. Because our attention is it is the most valuable commodity. There are two valuable commodities, the most valuable. Leadership. There has never been a more important time for great leaders to step up and lead people forwards so that people could become their own leader in their own life. And the second thing is us definitely learn to use our attention, because your attention is being tempted. I was looking at a girl at the airport this morning who was looking on Instagram, and I was just curious looking at what she was looking at. She was looking at videos that were no more than 20 or 30 seconds, and literally she must have looked at 20 or 30 of them, just going from one to the other, one to the other. It's very hard for people to keep their attention. And I promise you this, if you want success in any area of your life, it ain't going to happen in what you do in 20 or 30 seconds. It's going to happen in what you do over an extended period of time, and maybe for a bit longer than 20 or 30 seconds. In fact, we did a live, in fact, I'm going to do a podcast on Bruce Lee. We did a live Facebook broadcast. You could probably find it if you search for it on Facebook, Pete Cohen, Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee became an incredible martial artist. Why? Routines, rituals, discipline. He just mastered certain things by having certain rituals in place. He became so great at what he did that so many people from other martial artists, other schools, they wanted to learn from him, but they almost wanted him to give them something. And he actually closed his schools down. He had 3 martial arts schools, and he closed them all down because people just wanted the answer rather than going to work on themselves. So when you look at the roadmap to success, it does boil down to routines and rituals. It's the same thing. It's when you routinely do something. And studies have shown that when people do something sporadically, let's say you might say, oh, I'm going to read a book on personal development and I'll read it 3 times a week. You are less likely to succeed doing it 3 times a week than if you did it every single day. Every single day, set something in your brain that goes, this is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm doing it. Now, I can challenge you if you want, and tell you this. Of all the people in the world that were less likely to stick to routines and rituals, I would probably be way up there, because I'm incredibly energetic. I find it hard to concentrate on anything for an extended period of time, but I've had to train myself over a period of years. I don't expect people to do what I do, but you know what? I get up very early in the morning at 4 o'clock and I don't check my emails, because this is something else. I want you to understand that your decision-making capacity, there's only so much of that you have. And if you immediately get up in the morning and you start looking at emails, what happens is you are reacting to what other people want from you. So once you work out what's important, what it is that you need to work on, if it's possible for you for the first half an hour, or 2 hours in the day, that's when you want to give that your most energy, your most focus, to block off distractions and go to work on what it is that you need to do that sets you up for the day. Because if you don't do this, you will become a victim of impulsivity. You will become a reactive person rather than a person who is deciding to create the life that you want. We say this a lot. A great life does not happen by chance. It happens by design. And when you think about what you're designing is a series of great days. In fact, those of you that are watching us on YouTube, you can see the picture here. Happy, beautiful day. To have a beautiful day, a happy, beautiful day, I dare you to see what happens that if you can stick to doing a few routines over an extended period of time, how much you get better at something. And yes, this is boring for a lot of people, the whole idea of doing things. But doing those mundane things over time, that is where the greatness lies. In all human beings. That is where it is. It's not anywhere else. In fact, Mozart was asked, I think I might have mentioned this in a previous podcast, In fact, he wasn't asked. He was considered a genius. And someone wrote something about him, and he just told a friend how devastated he was by that, because he didn't see himself as a genius. If anything, he was a genius of hard work, at sticking at things until he became very good at them. It's the same with Michelangelo. He didn't become this amazing person who could just sculpt things. He started sculpting from a very early age. He got good at it because of what he did over time. And there's something really weird that happens in society today, that when we see people who are working on things and getting good at them, we kind of don't like it, we put them down, because I think deep down we know we were put on this earth to get better at things. And if you take anything away from this podcast today, maybe to decide what's a ritual, what's a routine that you could actually challenge yourself to do it? And how could you keep yourself engaged in it? For me, the way to keep myself engaged in it is to decide the night before what I'm doing. In fact, in Islam and Judaism, they believe that the day starts at sunset. So I love that concept. That's why I like to lay myself things out for the morning before I go to bed. So it's like tomorrow has already started now, so I can minimize distraction. I can minimize getting things ready and using up energy, because I have already decided what it is I'm going to do. And by the way, the word to decide comes from the French word to décider, to cut off, to cut yourself off from doing anything else apart from what you said you were going to do. This is where your confidence will come. And if you want to be challenged again by me as your coach, let's go on a streak. Not a streak of taking all our clothes off. A streak of, I'm going to do this for a series of days. We have some of our members who have journaled for 600 days. People who have meditated for 1,000 days. And once you get good at one thing, it becomes habitual, it becomes easy. Then you can start to do something else. Rather than trying to do everything all in one go, it's the simple things over time which make a massive, massive difference. I've just got my notes here. I'm glad I picked that up, because, and this is where we'll finish this podcast. It's a wonderful word. Maybe we'll do a podcast on that, and we'll welcome your feedback about all of this. But this is a great word, intentionality. Intentionality. I love that word. You have the intention to do something, but the intentionality comes from seeing the completion of the task. So some people have the desire to exercise, right? But they talk themselves out of it. The intentionality is you intend to get what you're going to get out of it at the end. Now, for exercise, a lot of people don't like the idea of it, because they think, when they think about it, it's hard work. But the intentionality is, what are you going to get from having done it? What's the feeling that you were going to have from doing something that maybe you didn't even feel like doing? And if you do this routinely, like at a certain time every single day, it's just what you do, you seriously minimize make it so much more unlikely that you're not going to do it. Listen, we are our own greatest potential, but we also we can be our greatest enemy. If you put routines and rituals in place in your life, if you bookend your day and you start your day so it has two ends to it, a beginning and an end, you are far more likely to have success and create loads of happy, beautiful days and live an inspired life, where every day you're writing your future. And that's where your power comes from, to create the future that you want. So I appreciate you guys watching. What is your biggest learning, your biggest takeaway from this? If you're watching this on iTunes, feel free to leave us a comment. It makes a big difference. Wherever you're watching this, feel free to share it and give us some feedback. And if you want to see how individual coaching with me, a world-class coach who's worked with so many people, helping them to have the success in their life that they now have, just check out Mi365elite.me. That's Mi365elite.me, and see what coaching can do for you. We will see you next time for another Mi365 podcast.